Hi, welcome, and I hope you're doing well. This is a MacBook Pro A1708. This is a 2016 and 2017 model. As you can see, this MacBook Pro doesn't have a Touch ID on the top. This is the 13-inch MacBook A1708, the year of 2016 and 2017. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble the entire laptop. You'll get a chance to see on how to replace the LCD screen, to replace the keyboard, the palm rest, the touchpad. Get to see to change the motherboard, the both speakers, and the battery as well. So let's get started. And first thing first, you need to have the tools. Let me walk you through the tools that I'm be using today really quick. So the first thing you need to have is a pentalobe screwdriver, a prying tool, a metal one or the plastic is fine. So this is a Torque 8 screwdriver. This is a Torque 0.8 screwdriver, and this is the Torque 5 screwdriver. So biggest, this is the medium, and this is the smallest. So I just need 3 Torque screwdriver and 1 pentalobe and a prying tool, and that should get you the process on disassemble the entire laptop. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you need to have is to remove the screws. So there are 6 screws, a pentalobe screws that is holding the back plate. So go ahead and remove all the 6 screws. The screws are not the same, so make sure you have the screws in place and do not mix and match the screws. Okay, at this point here, the back plate has a clipper on both sides, the left and the right. You need to make sure you have enough pressure to separate the clipper away from the laptop, and that way you can remove the back plate. So I get a pry tool, try to get in. Okay, so as you can see, I'm already in. So I'm going to put pressure, enough pressure to separate the clipper, and the clipper should be around here. Okay, so you can hear the click noise. All right, so that is the noise. And come back and do it on this side. All right, so both of the clippers are popped open, and so once that thing is done, so the next thing to do is to slide towards you. So slide the back plate towards yourself, slide it down. Okay, and then come back here and slide the other side. All right, so I'll show it to you. As I was mentioning, the clipper, right? There are both clippers here. Make sure you pop before you can remove the back plate and slide it out. As you can see, this is the slide. You go right underneath here and you slide out. All right, so that thing is removed. This is the cover for the battery, and you can just remove that. Okay, so at this point here, just kind of do your quick walkthrough. On the top here is the Wi-Fi antenna. This is the LCD board. This is the whole motherboard here. CPU fan, speaker on both sides, left and right. This is the battery, and the touchpad is underneath the battery here. Okay, so the first thing I try to do, the easy one, is to remove the speaker. Before you do that, make sure you disconnect the battery first. Okay, so there's a clipper right here. Make sure you open up the clipper, flip it open gently and pull the ribbon cable out. Okay, so once you have that, and just disconnect the battery for now. I'm using a T5 screwdriver, a Torque 5. Okay, gently separate the connector. So the way it works is it just touch on its own with the screw that locks it down for the battery. So just gently separate them. Okay, once you have that, let's go ahead and remove both speakers. Okay, so go ahead and disconnect the cable, gently flip the clipper and pull that ribbon cable. 2 screws, and this 2 screw is the one that's holding the speaker, and once you have that, you can just remove it. Okay, so the speaker is removed. Let's come back here and do this speaker on this side. Again, open up the clipper and gently pull that ribbon cable. 3 screws that is holding the speaker here, and just remove it. Alright, so both of the speakers are removed. The next thing I'm going to do is to remove the motherboard. Okay, so let's disconnect all the cables. So first thing I'll be doing is disconnect the touchpad. The touchpad comes with a bracket that holds onto it. So remove the 2 screws and use your fingernail and remove the touchpad cable. Okay, so let's just put that on the side here. Let's do this cable now. Remove the clipper, gently pull that cable, separate from the connector, and that should be it. Okay, come to this part here. Again, there's a bracket that is holding it with the 2 screws, so gently remove them. And separate the connector. Okay, so far we have disconnect most of the cables except the Wi-Fi cable. The Wi-Fi cable here is connected onto the motherboard like so. Okay, so you can just separate them using a fingernail. Okay, to separate the Wi-Fi. So the next step I'll be doing is to remove the hinge cover. So they're both sides and the screws are really tiny. So remove that. Come back here and remove this one. Okay, I'll bring it back to the center on the screen. So there is a screw that is holding the heatsink on the top left corner. So go ahead and remove that. Okay, so make sure you have the screw in a correct position because they're not the same size. So do not mix and match your screws. Make sure you have them aligned as you work on the table, align them, and that way you can put them back together and how it was before. Okay, so let's start with this motherboard, and then the 2 screws here, 1, 2 at the bottom. Further apart, there's another one here. Okay, goes under to the top. And it comes down to the Wi-Fi. Can just separate them like this. And that should be it for all the screws on the motherboard, right? And pay attention to here, the motherboard is still holding with this cable for that LCD, right? So it's very important you are to be gentle make sure you do not break that cable, because that cable is the source to transfer the display onto your LCD screen. So it's a very critical cable, and if you break that, then best of luck. Okay, so gently remove them. Right, so this is the cable, and I just use my fingernail to pry it open. Alright, so once you have that removed, at this point your motherboard should be very loose and free to go. Okay, you can just slide out the motherboard. It's almost no pressure to slide it out or to remove it. Okay, and this is the USB-C that connects on the side. So when you remove it, you want to slide it out to your left and then just remove it. Do not break the USB-C connector. Alright, so here's your motherboard, and that's how you do a motherboard replacement. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, so the next thing I'll be doing is remove the CPU fan. And this CPU fan here, there's a ribbon cable still attached to it, so make sure you have the ribbon cable clipper is open and slightly just pull that cable. Okay, once the cable is detached, 4 screws that is holding that CPU fan, that's how you replace the CPU fan. Okay, let's put the CPU fan on the side. Alright, so pretty much so far we have done with the speaker, the motherboard, the CPU fan, and right now we'll be working on the LCD screen. Okay, let me bring it down a little bit. Okay, I'll give you a walkthrough first before I remove them. You don't have to remove this this plate here. Okay, majority of the time when you buy the new LCD screen, it comes with a plate. This bracket here is actually holding on to the LCD cable, so it is not necessary to remove. And I'll tell you what are the things that we need to remove. So there are 6 screws here that is holding down the Wi-Fi. You need to remove all 6 screws. There are 4 screws, both on each side, and this is the one that you need to remove as well. This is the cable connector, kind of like a spring. It has a spring. You need to flip it to a certain angle. It goes like this, and then you can put the 2 screws to hold onto it. You get to see it when I remove it after. And then there are 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these 4 screws you need to remove in order to get the LCD board to be separated. Okay, and then lastly there will be 6 screws for the hinges, 3 on each side. Okay, so let's get started with this. And again, this is very critical with the screws I'm talking about, so make sure you have them in a proper position. Okay, as I was explaining to you, the way it works is like it has this little spring that keep trying to push back on its own, so you need to flip it and then able to push it back into the bracket and then put the 2 screws to lock it down. Okay, so that's what it is for this one. Okay, let's come to work on the other one, the other part of the thing. So 1 and 2. Okay. All right, so they're loose. So let's come back and work on this. Okay, now this is the final screw, which is the torque 0.8, and this is for the Wi-Fi. They're really tiny, so make sure you do not lose them. Or try not to sneeze or cough, because they're so small, you might actually blow them away. The size are all the same, so it doesn't matter if you mix match the Wi-Fi screws. But yeah, just be careful, take your time, there's no rush. This may seem simple for me, but for you might have some challenges, but it's all right, just take your time. You can always rewind the video and play it back again. All right, so as you can see, we have this LCD separated, and the Wi-Fi is being loose and ready to come right out. Okay, but we are not going to, you can remove the entire Wi-Fi. You just kind of slide in and out, right? Yeah, you can just slide in and out for the Wi-Fi, or you can just leave it in, doesn't matter, whichever is easier. But I just wanted to point this out to you. Once you remove the Wi-Fi, and if you pay attention to it, the cable is underneath the Wi-Fi, right? Meaning that the Wi-Fi is on the top and the LCD cable is at the bottom. Okay, so when you install them back again, make sure you're not the other way around by having the Wi-Fi first and the LCD on the top. The LCD has two cables now, right? The clipper here and also the LCD board. It's not like this, not like this. Okay, the entire LCD is underneath and the Wi-Fi goes on top. And you also make sure that the Wi-Fi goes in and through the board here. All right, so that have enough of explanation. So let's go ahead and remove the 6 screws. And this 6 screw is the one that is holding the LCD screen, the hinge. Okay, so as you see, I'm just removing 2 screws first, and I'm leaving 1 screw attached. The reason behind of that is so that I can open my LCD into a 90-degree angle like this. Okay, into a 90-degree angle, so that I can open up the hinge after. So go ahead and remove this, and then come back. We are still holding at about 90-degree angle, and then remove the final last screw. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to slide it out like this. Okay, come back here, and then you do the same for this part. Okay, once you have that, as you can see, the LCD will just come right out. Very easy. Okay, once you detach the hinge on both sides at about 90-degree angle, and they will just separate them. Alright, so at this point here, you are pretty much all set. Hold on a second. Sorry, my phone just ran out of the battery, and sorry about that. And at this point here, I just wanted to point out to you, and this is the battery, right? The touchpad and the keyboard, they are all in one piece together. So I recommend for those who wants to replace the keyboard, you want to buy the entire assembly for the touchpad, the keyboard, and the battery. Okay, something like this, the entire piece. And then for those who wants to change the LCD screen, there you have it. It comes like this, and you want to buy something that comes the entirely with the cover, the glass, and the LCD and the cable. So it makes repair a lot easier if you do something like this rather than changing the glass on its own. Alright, so I think this is it for now, and I hope the video helps you on how to disassemble them, and just do the reverse process to put them back together. I wish you luck, and if you have any questions, comment below and give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And until next time, alright, take care.